Director of Athletics Jim Sterk, Head Coach Brian Smith, and our wrestlers behind us. To announce the format today, what we're going to do, I will introduce Director of Athletics Jim Sterk up here. He will give his opening statement and speech, and then we will do questions from media here. We have media joining us from the Zoom virtually. Once we are done with questions here in the room, I will take questions from the chat within the Zoom. Once those are done, then Jim will introduce Coach Smith, and we'll do the same process. So with that, welcome to the podium, Jim Sterk.
Thank you, and it's great to see y'all. I have an exciting announcement, and then I'll turn it over to Coach Smith. But I want to first say, from 1929 through 2012, Mizzou Wrestling competed in the Big 6, Big 7, Big 8, and then the renamed Big 12. When Mizzou Athletics overall accepted the invitation to join the SEC in 2012, wrestling was forced to find a home because the conference didn't sponsor a wrestling championship. There were no other Power 5 level conferences that offered, so Mizzou Wrestling found an affiliate membership in the Mid-American Conference for the past 9 years. The MAC has been a great home, and nothing but respect for those folks that run the program, that run the conference, and all the members there. We want to thank them. The team overall has won 9 straight titles, finished nationally in the top 10 for 6 consecutive seasons, including a 7th place finish this year. Since our departure in 2012, Coach Smith has never lost hope that one day Mizzou Wrestling could return to the Big 12 Conference and renew the rivalries with the Oklahoma State and Iowa State, West Virginia. Today, our Board of Curators and President Choi approved the opportunity for us to accept the invitation for the Big 12 membership as an affiliate member in the sport of wrestling. In my first meeting with Brian in 2016, he expressed his desire for the program, what he wanted to do, and part of that was getting back to the Big 12. I want to thank Commissioner Bowlesby for listening 4 years ago, or 4.5, or almost 5 years ago, and then extending the invitation after the first of this year, and then also thanking President Choi, the Board of Curators, and all the supporters out there that support Mizzou Wrestling and our entire program. I'd like to turn it over to Coach Smith to say a few words about what this program means, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Jim. And to get this project done, to get this done moving into a conference was not easy. I remember 10 years ago being homeless for 6 months. I think we won the Big 12s right here, and then we moved into 6 months of not knowing where we were going to go compete, and the difficulty of it was enormous, but the people back then were Mike Ald and Sarah Reisman helping us get into a conference, which was the MAC, and we went through 9 years of some of the greatest years of probably in athletic history at Mizzou. When you look at, we were top 10 7 of those 9 years, and it's an amazing time that it was a challenge, but how our program and the culture of our program, which is Tiger Style, dealt with that, and now having the opportunity for a new challenge, right guys? And we're going back to the Big 12. And so we're very excited about it, very excited about the competition level that we're moving into. We've kept our rivalry going with Oklahoma State every year, and it's been some great duels here. We had, I think, one of the last times they were here was over 5,000 people. So that's part of it, that we can continue that and be a part of such a great traditional conference. So I would like to thank President Choi and Jim and the administration and all the people. You don't understand, this was weeks and weeks of, well, it was years. It was something that I never thought would happen, that I really didn't think getting back to the Big 12, but people change, things change, and great things can happen. And I think it was, for me, I just saw a tweet from the Big 12, and it showed the Big 12 logo, a championship trophy, and a tiger head on it. And being here 23 years, I know that is kind of special to a lot of Missouri fans, too, that Mizzou is, in a small way, with Mizzou Wrestling, going back to the Big 12. So at this point, I guess I can take some questions.
Yep, we'll do questions now. If raise your hand, RJ will bring you a microphone. We'll get started. Ben from KOMU, go ahead.
Brian, I know that your preference would have been to never leave the Big 12, going back to 2011-12, and that wasn't a possibility back then. What was it like trying to rebuild the relationship over the last 9-10 years and get it to the point where we are today?
You know, I really didn't. At some point, I just felt like I could concern myself with trying to change conferences, and I knew it was out there, but really our focus was just on how we could do at the NCAA tournament. That we were going to win conferences, and we expected that, but how we could recruit through that. At times it was hard recruiting because people were using it against us, but you know, when you think about the kids that we have put out here, the quality of product we have put out, we overcame that. And at some point I just was like, I've been here 23 years, I just got to do the best I can, and the program's got to do the best they can, and that's pretty darn good. And if it happens, it happens. But knowing the coaches, John Smith and I, the moment it happened, it was here in the Hearn Center. It was our last coaches meeting together as Big 12 peers, and he came to me and he said, Brian, whatever it takes, I'm going to help and work at this. And I know we talk all the time, and he said, there's a chance, and as things change. And I remember a few years ago, I thought it might happen, but then it didn't. And I thought, this is never going to happen, maybe in my time period. But then over the winter, there was some noise going on around it, and I thought maybe it will, and we'll see, and it did. And you know, I'm grateful to the MAC. It was a great conference for us. We got us, you know, we have won the titles there. The people I got to work with there, the coaches, the administration from the MAC, unbelievable people to work with, and it was great to us. And I'm very respectful and grateful to them for what they were the only conference that really wanted us at that time, and it was great for us.
Andrew Kaufman, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how does being in the Big 12 help you specifically and your program?
How does it help us specifically? Really, nothing's going to change. I mean, we're still going to believe in Tiger style, live it. We're still going to recruit the same kids that fit the culture. It's just going to be, we're going to be in a different place. In the first weekend of March, it's going to be Tulsa. Right, Keegan? You tried to get me on that one. Keegan asked me one day a few weeks ago where the conference tournament, who's hosting it, Oklahoma or Oklahoma State? And I looked at him, I'm like, what are you talking about? We're going to be in the MAC. So it was an interesting question in the middle of practice. He didn't get me. But nothing's going to change. We'll continue to run the program. Our kids are going to do high level. We have a lot of kids in grad school that are here to go to school and do great things, but also compete. We want to get more crowd in the Hearn Center. I've heard some fans over the years complain, we got to wrestle more Okie States and this and that. Well, here you go, fans. Come on out. We're going to be wrestling in the Big 12 again. So, but nothing really will change with our program. We're recruiting top-level kids every year and getting after it and trying to win a national title. So it's the same focus.
Gabe DeArmond, go ahead.
Brian, I know this just happened, but whether it's Coach Smith at Oklahoma State or anybody else, have you kind of heard from those guys since this became a thing, and what's the reaction from that side of it?
I had heard from them during the season, and actually, you know, we were down at Oklahoma State this year and up at Iowa State, so I talked with Coach Dresser, and they were all pushing for it to happen. They see the big picture that the Big Ten has kind of separated itself a little in the sport of wrestling, but the Big 12 has a lot of really good programs, and with us coming in, we just add to that. And it's gonna, you know, I think over the last 10 years, we've qualified 90 guys, so 90% of our guys have gone to the NCAA, so this is a big uptick for the Big 12. It's gonna add 9 or 10 more qualifiers, hopefully 10, and that means 10 more guys from the Big 12 wrestling at the national tournament for All-American status and national titles. So it'll, competition-wise, and the sport of wrestling has really grown in the TV. When you look at TV and you watch the streaming going on, that dual meets have become really big during the winter time, and a lot of big duels are being focused on the streaming now. So that's just going to add to it, that the conference is getting even more competitive, and for us, that will be showcased around the country more too.
I think Eric Blum next, right?
Brian, you kind of mentioned a little bit about people change and things change. What exactly were the conversations like where you knew this was going to happen? What exactly changed to make this the right timing for you guys?
I have no idea. I was not at anything in the Big 12 meetings. Just found out through Jim that, hey, Mr. Commissioner Bowlesby reached out to us, and it's a possibility of this happening, and then it had to happen where Mizzou would have to go back too. So it had to go through, we had to jump through a lot of hoops of fire, as Coach Smith says, but it was, I just think time and people changes, and people change, and who's running different programs and who's in charge, and I think over time that I know Commissioner Bowlesby is a big wrestling fan and comes from a wrestling family and was a wrestler. So it's just one of those things that he knows that is the best sport in the Big 12 when you look at success. They've had over 40-something national titles, and so it's a sport that he wants to see succeed. And so I think that was a big part of it, that for the sport of wrestling, and it's different than other sports, this was going to be a good move for it. So I'm appreciative of that they see the big picture of it.
Brian, how do you envision this affecting your schedule? I know you've competed against Oklahoma State and Iowa State over the years, but will you be changing out a lot of those MAC opponents? How do you think the schedule's going to look?
I'll start. We've already got dual meets with Iowa State, Oklahoma State. I think Virginia Tech has said they're coming. So these are all home duels next year, and I think this year I wrestled more Big 12 teams during the pandemic than I did MAC teams. So it's kind of crazy. If you look back at our schedule, I think we had 7 Big 12 schools on it and went to the tournament down at Oklahoma State where it was all Big 12 and us. So for us, the locale of all the Big 12, right, it just makes it easier on travel, makes it easier on our fan base. But I'm sure I'll keep some dual meets with some of the MAC schools because we get 16 dates. But I honestly don't even know the rules of the Big 12 or how many I have to schedule. I just texted John Smith a few days ago, like, have the meetings happen, the head coaches meetings happen. So I got to find all that out. I got to start getting to work on that kind of stuff. But we will keep some duels with, like SIUE with Jeremy there, the coach, that they're right down the road. We'll keep matches going like that, and anybody else that wants to keep it going from the MAC. But I know we're going to have to wrestle a certain amount in the Big 12.
Brian, you may not know the answer to this yet, but as an affiliate member, is there any difference as far as do you get less favorable traveling or scheduling or revenue, distribution or anything like that?
I don't know any of those. I don't know. I just know when I look at I was looking at the totals of like attendance at the Big 12 tournament, and it was like 17, 19, 20,000 over the couple days. And I know we had a big crowd here when we hosted the MAC, but the numbers they're putting in, and that it's a good conference, for that. I know nothing about revenue, things like that. I'm sure with our sport it's not that big of a deal, but I do know affiliate members get treated the same. I've watched the Big 12 over these years. Everybody's got their logos on their singlets and their gear and treated the same. And I know they're all wrestling each other. I've actually gotten a bunch of texts from coaches about scheduling, but I haven't done anything yet. So we'll see. We'll move forward, but it's an exciting time. It's going to be a busy time for Coach.
Any other questions in-house? I got 2 virtually, if not. Okay, we got the first one from Jason Bryant. He said, you developed a very intense rivalry with Northern Iowa when both schools were in the MAC, in addition to legacy Big 12 schools like Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Iowa State. How excited are you to be able to rekindle that new rivalry with Doug Schwab at UNI?
Yeah, we had a great, but we've kept it going. That's the thing. We have wrestled Northern Iowa every year. And I remember when Doug was, this is Northern Iowa, when they were leaving the MAC, he's like, will you still wrestle us? I said, heck yeah, it's a great match. We have great dual meets, and it's a competitive duel, and we get after it. His team is well coached. So now that we're back in the conference with them, it'll be exciting because when they left, it was a good team leaving the MAC, and I knew I was kind of bummed that he did. And so now being able to team up with them again, and of course all the Big 12 schools, it's going to be. I was looking at some of the weight classes the other day and just the rankings of all the, how many guys did well at the Nationals. And it's 6, 7, 8 deep at weights that are really, really good wrestlers. So it's going to be a lot more work with scouting and knowing teams. And it's going to be a great conference tournament for our guys to compete in the 2 weeks before the NCAAs that I feel like in some ways that was lost when we left the Big 12. We lost that really competitive big, big venue tournament before the national tournament.
And another one from Jason Bryant. Despite winning all those MAC championships, explain the relationships with coaches like Tom Borelli at Central Michigan and John Hangy at Ryder, and how those teams help push you to be a better coach.
Well, Coach Borelli was a big advocate of us moving to the MAC, and he has the right mindset. He had the mindset that if we move into the MAC, the teams will, try to build up to us, and rising tide. And he was, when you look back in the years, one of the few teams that beat us in the MAC was Coach Borelli in Central Michigan, and they beat us in a couple duels. And I told him this year on the floor. I said, you're one of the best coach teams I have to compete in at the MAC. And it's not disrespect to the other coaches, but I just know the work they put in and the way they're coached up in matches. It's just, if you aren't prepared for them, they will beat you. And I think they finished second almost every year to us. So it was, and he had won the MAC 11 straight years before we got there. So for him to say, I want Missouri to come in there, is just a true testament of the type of person he is for the sport. And then Coach Hangy at Ryder, just, he got Coach of the Year this year with me. But he's doing a great job there, and they came into the conference. So I'm excited to see I'll still follow the MAC and see what they do. Any others?
Any other questions? We have Jim here too, if anyone has any questions for Jim, if you would like that. All right, we are good to go. Thank you for coming. I think we have one more thing for you, Coach Smith. If anybody wants to do a photo op, we have something to unveil right behind you there.
A photo op?